Hello, my name is Brian Vale. When I was very young, my grandfather used to repeat one thought to me over and over again. I only truly understood what it meant years later. He used to say, "Brian, remember this. The most dangerous poison is almost never bitter. Most of the time it tastes sweet." And today that is exactly what we are going to talk about. Not the obvious enemies, not the people who shout, argue, and make their hostility easy to see. Those people are usually easy to recognize. We are going to talk about the ones who smile at you, call themselves your friend, your loved one, or your ally, while carrying cold resentment inside. The ones who can stay close to you for years, slowly draining your strength while you mistake it for support, care, or affection.
I am going to walk you through 9 clear signs that helped me, and many people I have known, recognize a wolf in sheep's clothing before it was too late. And so this does not become one overloaded episode. I divided these 9 signs into a series of 3 parts, and in this first part, we are going to begin with some of the earliest and most deceptive signs of hidden hatred, the kind that many people ignore for far too long because they want to believe the best. But I want to ask you to stay with me until the end, because near the end of this series, I will share what may be the most important secret of all. A simple but powerful principle that changes the whole game. It is the one thing that can instantly disarm anyone who wishes you harm and help you recover your inner peace. Believe me, that one idea is worth following this entire path to the end.
Sign 1, the one many people ignore out of pure kindness, is what I call the time thief, or in modern terms, the chronically late person. Listen to me carefully. I am not talking about someone who gets stuck in traffic once a year or runs into an unexpected problem. We are all human. Life happens. I am talking about someone who keeps you waiting again and again until it becomes a pattern. This person shows up 15 minutes late, 20 minutes late, sometimes even an hour late. But pay attention to one very important detail. Somehow, they are almost never late for a flight, a doctor's appointment, or a meeting with someone powerful. What does that tell you? It is not absent-mindedness. It is not bad memory. It is a quiet but very cruel display of power and hierarchy. Their actions say it to your face, even when they say nothing at all. The message is simple. My time is valuable. Your time is disposable.
When someone keeps you waiting, they place you in a lower position, in the position of the one who asks, hopes, and waits. You sit there watching the clock. You start feeling nervous. Your energy drains away into nothing. And little by little, your confidence starts to break with it. Then that person arrives calm, unhurried, completely at ease. They toss out a careless sorry and immediately act as if they are the one in control. And that kind of behavior eats away at your self-respect, one drop at a time. Remember this. Anyone who truly respects you will also respect your minutes. I remember one moment when my grandfather taught me this lesson so clearly that I never forgot it. I was still very young then, hot-headed, eager to prove myself. I was about to go into business with a well-known businessman in our town. We had arranged to meet, and I stood out there in the cold wind waiting for him for 40 minutes. I was freezing, pacing back and forth, coming up with one excuse after another on his behalf. Maybe something happened at home. Maybe someone got sick. Maybe his car broke down on the way. But when he finally appeared, moving slowly, calm as ever, with a smile on his face, my grandfather, who had been watching the whole thing from a distance, called me over and said in a quiet, steady voice, "Brian, never do business with people who steal your life." Then he said, "Remember something simple. If that man were on his way to sign the deal of a lifetime or on his way to meet a governor, he would have been standing here an hour early, afraid to even glance at his watch. But he was late with you because he is not afraid of losing you. And the person who steals your time without shame will one day steal your trust and your peace just as easily." And over the years, I learned that my grandfather was absolutely right. Punctuality is not just about manners. It is the clearest and most honest sign of how much you truly matter to someone.
Sign 2 is information withholding. This is not open betrayal. It is not the kind that stabs you in the back where everyone can see it. No, this is worse. The weapon here is silence, an empty space where a warning should have been. I call it information withholding, or more simply, a quiet conspiracy of silence. The heart of this sign is very simple. A person who secretly resents you will deliberately leave out things you need to know. They will keep back details that matter. The kind of details you need in order to make the right decision, or at least avoid looking foolish. They keep you in the dark while they enjoy the light. And then, when something goes wrong, when you make a mistake, or end up looking ridiculous in front of others, they widen their eyes and give you one of the most dishonest lines in the world. "Oh, I thought you knew," or "I'm sorry, it completely slipped my mind." Do not believe that. This has nothing to do with memory.
This is calculation. Let's break it down, because I want you to feel how poisonous this really is. Imagine you are walking down a road with someone who knows there is a deep hole ahead. They walk beside you, smiling, chatting, talking about the weather, and saying nothing about the danger in front of you. You fall in, you break your legs, and they stand above you and say, "You should have watched where you were going, my friend." That is what information withholding is, and in ordinary life, it looks very similar. A meeting gets moved to a different time at work. Everyone knows except you. Somehow, you were the one who didn't get told. Then you walk into the room late, and everyone looks at you like you are careless, unreliable, and disrespectful. Or maybe there is an important family dinner with a specific dress code. Everyone arrives dressed for the occasion. You were never told it was special, so you show up in everyday clothes, feeling awkward, out of place, and quietly humiliated. Why does that hurt so deeply? Because information is a sign of belonging. When people share news with us, details with us, secrets with us, even small plans with us, the message is, you are one of us, you matter, you belong here. But when someone cuts you out of the flow of information, the message becomes something else. You are nobody here. You do not deserve to know what we know. You are extra. You are outside. And that makes you feel foolish, incompetent, and worst of all, alone. You start doubting your own judgment. You start thinking maybe it was your fault. Maybe you should have asked. Maybe you should have checked. Maybe you should have known. But remember this, a real friend will always find a way to warn you. Even without words, they will try to signal you. An enemy will stay silent, even with a microphone in their hand. And this kind of silence shows up everywhere. In business, so you miss an opportunity. In friendship, so you feel left out. In family life, so you can be framed as cold, uninvolved, or careless, when in reality, you were simply shut out of the truth. Let me tell you a story that taught me to spot this kind of cruelty from far away. It happened many decades ago when I was still very young, and my grandfather was full of strength and the kind of practical wisdom people in our neighborhood spoke about almost like legend. Back then, there were two sisters in our town. Let's call them Rebecca and Laura. They made women's clothing, and they were known as the best dressmakers in the area. On the surface, they seemed inseparable, always together, always smiling at each other, always speaking warmly. They looked like the picture of closeness. But my grandfather had a gift. He could see what lived behind people's smiles. And when he watched those two, he would often shake his head and say to me, "Brian, wherever there is too much sugar, flies will not be far behind. One of them is already feeding on the other. She is just doing it so quietly that even the neighbors cannot hear it." One day, a very wealthy client from the city was expected to pass through town. He was looking to commission an elegant wardrobe for his daughter's wedding. It was the kind of order that could keep a dressmaker financially secure for a very long time. Rebecca, the older sister, found out first. She knew the exact day and hour the man would be crossing the main square. And she knew he had a particular love for a rare, deep blue fabric. So, what do you think she did? Did she rush to her sister so they could prepare together? No. The evening before, she sat with Laura, drank tea with her, laughed with her, talked about ordinary household things, and said nothing. Not one word about the client. In fact, when Laura asked whether it was true that important visitors were coming to town, Rebecca waved it off and said, "Oh, that is just gossip. I heard they changed their plans and went to another town instead. You do not need to open the shop early tomorrow. Get some rest. Sleep in." Laura was trusting, soft-hearted. She believed her own sister. The next morning, happy that her sister had shown such concern, she slept late. And while she was still in bed, Rebecca was already standing in the square, perfectly dressed, fully prepared, with the finest samples of that exact blue fabric the client loved. Of course, she got the order. When Laura found out the truth, she ran to her sister in tears. "How could you do this? Why didn't you tell me? Why did you lie to me about them going somewhere else?" And I still remember standing beside my grandfather in his shop, hearing Rebecca calmly count her advance payment as she answered, "Well, you should keep up with things yourself. I thought you already knew plans change. And about the other town? Maybe I got mixed up. Do not be childish. In this line of work, you cannot afford to be half asleep." I was horrified. To me, it felt monstrously unfair. I asked my grandfather, why would she do that? They are family. They could have shared that opportunity. My grandfather put his heavy hand on my shoulder, looked me straight in the eye, and said words I carried with me for the rest of my life. "Brian, listen carefully. Rebecca did not just want money. Money alone would not have satisfied her. She wanted Laura to feel small. She did not steal an order from her sister. She stole the truth from her. A person who keeps you in the dark wants power over your future. They imagine themselves as the puppeteer and you as the puppet. Today, she hid the client's arrival from her sister. Tomorrow, she will hide something worse. Be afraid of people who stay silent when they should speak, because the silence of that kind of friend is more dangerous than the open hostility of an enemy." After that, the sisters were never truly close again. And Laura really did begin to fade, not because of the lost order alone, but because she started believing she had been foolish. She blamed herself for being naive. And I never forgot the lesson. So if you notice that someone around you always seems to forget to tell you the most important thing, if serious news always reaches you last, if being around a certain person makes you feel like a blind kitten standing next to someone who can see perfectly well, do not rush to blame yourself. Do not tell yourself you were unworthy of knowing. Understand something else instead. That person is not your friend. That person is your jailer. They have locked you inside a cell made of silence. And the only way out is to stop trusting both their words and their silence. Look for the truth yourself, and stay away from people who keep it hidden in their pocket.
Sign 3 is toxic positivity. We are used to thinking that positivity, smiles, and encouraging words are always a good thing. But after a long life, I can tell you something many people do not expect to hear. Sometimes there is no poison more dangerous than sweetness forced into your mouth when you are already sick with pain. I call this toxic positivity. Or to put it more clearly, the kind of cheerfulness that silences someone who has every right to cry. This sign is dangerous because it hides so well. Imagine that something bad has happened to you, something real. You lost your job. You lost someone you loved. Or maybe you have simply reached that point where your strength is gone and the whole world feels gray and empty. You go to someone you trust. You open your heart. You show them the wound. You are not asking for a miracle. You are not asking them to fix your whole life. You just want human presence. You want someone to sit with you for a while, to stay near you, to let you feel that you are not alone. And instead you hear that bright, upbeat voice. Come on, don't be so upset. Everything will be fine. Look how beautiful the day is. Other people have it much worse and they still keep going. Keep your chin up. On the surface, the words sound right, light, positive, almost comforting. But why do they make you feel even heavier, as if someone has placed a slab of stone on your chest? Because that person does not want to see your pain. Your pain makes them uncomfortable. Your grief disturbs their sense of order. It ruins the tidy little picture they want the world to have, where everything stays pleasant, easy, and manageable. And with those cheerful phrases, they are not comforting you. They are shutting you down. What they are really saying is this: your feelings are inconvenient. Your pain makes me uncomfortable. Pull yourself together so I can feel comfortable again. And that, my friends, is one of the most refined forms of hidden hostility. It is the denial of your right to be a living human being, a person who feels deeply, a person who suffers, a person who is allowed to break and not smile on command while everything inside is falling apart. What does that do to your life? It damages you from the inside out. When people keep telling you not to be sad in situations where sadness is the most honest response, you begin to think something is wrong with you. You start feeling ashamed of your own tears. You start believing you are weak, ungrateful, too sensitive, like you are somehow failing at life because you cannot stay cheerful while you are hurting. You stop trusting yourself. Your soul is crying out in pain, while your mind, poisoned by someone else's forced positivity, starts whispering, "Be quiet. You have no right to feel this. You have no right to suffer." So you put on a mask. You smile through exhaustion. You say you are fine when you are not fine at all. And all the grief you never got to express stays trapped inside you. It settles into your body, into your nervous system, into your eyes, into your voice. And over time, it often turns into illness, or into a kind of emptiness that eventually becomes impossible to hide. A person who truly loves you is not afraid of your darkness. They do not demand that you become easy to be around the moment you are breaking. They can climb down into that inner pit with you, sit beside you in the dirt and say, "I see how much this hurts. Cry if you need to. I'm here." But the person who wishes you harm, or the person who only really cares about their own comfort, will stand up above you in a clean, bright coat and call down, "Come on, get up, enough, just stop being sad." And that is why this kind of light often turns out to be betrayal disguised as kindness. Now let me tell you a story that happened many decades ago, when my grandfather's hair had already turned white as winter snow, but his mind was still sharp as a blade. In our neighborhood there was a man named Martin. He was a master watchmaker. His whole life lived inside that small workshop. It smelled of oil and metal. Tiny parts were laid out across the shelves, and all around him, clocks ticked day and night. To him, that sound was not just noise, it was the music of his life. Then one night, disaster struck. A fire broke out. Everything burned. His tools, collected over years, rare parts, customers' watches, wooden tables, shelves, the entire workshop. Martin was left standing in the ashes with nothing. He sat on the burned doorstep, covered in soot, slowly rocking back and forth. His grief was so huge that he could not even cry. People passed by. Some brought water, some brought food, some just nodded with quiet sympathy. Everyone understood what had happened. A man had lost the work of his whole life. And then one of our neighbors showed up. Let's call him Philip. Philip was one of those people who are always smiling, always convinced they know how life should be lived, and never know when to stop talking. He walked up to Martin, gave him a cheerful slap on the shoulder that sent ash falling off his clothes, and said in that overly lively voice of his, "Martin, come on, don't take it so hard. Thank God you're alive. It was only stuff. Look at the sun. Life goes on. At least now you have a chance to start fresh. Smile. You can't let yourself fall apart like this." Martin looked up at him with eyes so full of pain that the sight alone could have cracked stone, and said quietly, "Go away, Philip, please, just go away." But Philip kept going. "What are you saying? I'm trying to help you. You can't sink like this, you have to stay positive." My grandfather had been standing nearby, listening to the whole exchange. He walked over. By then he was already an old man, but he was still tall, strong, and deeply commanding. Without saying a word, he took Philip by the arm and led him a few steps away from the ruins. I followed right behind them because by then I already knew that when my grandfather stepped in like that, something worth remembering was coming. Philip was offended. He said, "Why did you pull me away? I was trying to encourage him. That's exactly what he needs right now." And then my grandfather looked at him with that heavy, piercing stare of his and said words that wiped the smile straight off Philip's face. "Listen to me carefully. You were not encouraging him. You were hitting him in the face with your words. The man is carrying grief the size of a house, and you are pushing a piece of candy at him and demanding that he enjoy the taste. You say, 'It was only stuff.' But that workshop was not just stuff. It was his life." Then he said, "When you demand that he smile right now, what you are really telling him is that his loss means nothing. You are belittling his pain because you are afraid to stand near someone else's grief. You are not supporting him. You just do not want to feel uncomfortable in the presence of his suffering." My grandfather paused for a second, then added, "If you cannot help carry the weight of another person's pain, then at least do not jump on top of it with your empty advice. Step aside and let him grieve. Real support is quiet. Real support is presence. Real support is a shoulder beside you, not the hollow noise of cheerful slogans." I never forgot that. The person who forbids you to grieve, the person who demands that you stay easy, bright, and pleasant while your inner world is collapsing, is not your friend. That is a person who loves their own comfort first. Be careful with these positive people. Sometimes honest tears heal far better than a fake smile. So, my friends, today we've gone through the first 3 signs of hidden hatred: the time thief, information withholding, and toxic positivity. At first glance, all of this can look harmless, almost ordinary. Someone being late, someone keeping quiet, someone saying what sounds like the right thing. But that is exactly where the danger lives. The most destructive things in life rarely arrive in a loud or obvious form. Very often they arrive quietly, politely, even with a smile. And if you started recognizing people from your own life in these signs, then please, do not brush that feeling aside. Do not convince yourself that you are imagining it. A great many problems begin the moment a person keeps excusing someone who is slowly breaking them down from the inside. But this is only the beginning. In part 2, we are going deeper. We are going to talk about signs that do not just attack your time, your confidence, or your emotions. They go after something even more personal: your identity, your dignity, your right to remain yourself in the presence of other people. And believe me, many people recognize those signs far too late. If this conversation mattered to you, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next part. And I'd really like you to tell me in the comments which of these 3 signs you have seen most often in your own life. I truly value those stories because behind every one of them there is real pain and real struggle. And in the next video we continue. Take care of yourself, and do not let sweet poison become part of your life. So, my friends, today we've gone through the first 3 signs of hidden hatred: the time thief, information withholding, and toxic positivity. At first glance, all of this can look harmless, almost ordinary. Someone being late, someone keeping quiet, someone saying what sounds like the right thing. But that is exactly where the danger lives. The most destructive things in life rarely arrive in a loud or obvious form. Very often, they arrive quietly, politely, even with a smile. And if you started recognizing people from your own life in these signs, then please, do not brush that feeling aside. Do not convince yourself that you are imagining it. A great many problems begin the moment a person keeps excusing someone who is slowly breaking them down from the inside. But this is only the beginning. In part 2, we are going deeper. We are going to talk about signs that do not just attack your time, your confidence, or your emotions. They go after something even more personal: your identity, your dignity, your right to remain yourself in the presence of other people. And believe me, many people recognize those signs far too late. If this conversation mattered to you, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next part. And I'd really like you to tell me in the comments which of these 3 signs you have seen most often in your own life. I truly value those stories because behind every one of them there is real pain and real struggle. And in the next video, we continue. Take care of yourself, and do not let sweet poison become part of your life.